to buy a firearm. Well, as you just saw, these were 3 cases of children. There are many more adults as well who have a similar name to somebody who's on the no-fly list, which is to say these 8-year-olds, these 4-year-olds, these 2-year-olds would never be able to buy a firearm. And you would say, well, somebody should have enough sense to realize that a 2-year-old baby is not some elusive international terrorist. Well, shoulda, coulda, woulda, these kids still get patted down. They get denied entry onto the planes, all types of other things as well. So you can talk about what should happen. I'm telling you what does happen. And if they can mistake a child for some, kill 'em all terrorist, what's going to happen when you want to go buy your firearm? It's completely ridiculous, and it should not happen. And this is just some of the stuff that's going on. There are many other things all around the country. Like I said earlier, we have the ATF ammo bans. I think you have till March 16th, I'm going off memory, to contact the ATF if you want to put in your input on that. Don't waste your time contacting people like Feinstein. They're already a lost cause. But if you have good people in your Senate, in your city council, your sheriff, anybody you can, get a hold of them and say, hey, we want good pro-gun people here in our state. And when I say pro-gun, I'm not trying to stick a gun in everybody's hands in the United States of America. But I think if you want to defend yourself, if you want to carry a gun in your purse, if you want to keep a gun in your car, you should be able to do that, because the police cannot be there at all times to help you, to save you. And that's not a knock on the police. It's just saying, a cop will show up to a situation. He doesn't know who the bad guy is and who the good guy is. He just sees 2 guys with baseball bats swinging at each other. And you don't want to be the innocent person to get shot in that situation. So you should be able to defend yourself. That's just my way of thinking about it. So when we come back, we'll have a special report. Leanne McAdoo is going to talk to Joel Skousen about how you can defend yourself by bugging out. The things you need to know if you have to leave your home, or if you just want to make a more secure location for you and your family. All that's coming up right after this break.
Another major health threat, this one in Toledo, Ohio, where everybody in the entire city has been told not to drink the water.
Ohio's governor declaring a state of emergency.
Did you know that the average person uses about 80 to 100 gallons of water at home every single day? If there's a water emergency, will you be prepared?
Panicked residents forming long lines throughout the day.
We're here at a supermarket in Toledo. You can see the shelves empty where water once was.
To stay safe and healthy during a crisis, you must have access to safe, clean water. Water which will not be available at your local grocery store.
There's a mad dash on right now to stock up on supplies.
The ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system is a must-have for every modern, independently minded household. Protect your family's safety during an emergency. Go to InfoWarsStore.com today to purchase your ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system, or call 1-888-253-3139.
For all of recorded history, civilizations around the world praised the health benefits of silver. At InfoWars Life, our mission is to bring you the highest quality, purest, cleanest, effective colloidal silver on the market today for the lowest price available. You don't have to be a doctor to know. The fall and winter months are the most dangerous time of year in North America when it comes to you and your family's health. InfoWarsLife.com is very excited to announce our biggest run yet of Silver Bullet colloidal silver, exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com. Now, InfoWarsLife.com has taken colloidal silver to the next level using a cutting-edge technique that is free of toxic artificial additives. Now more than ever, it's important to stock up on high-quality Silver Bullet from InfoWarsLife.com, and to help others during Christmas by teaching them about the powerful benefits of silver. Secure your Silver Bullet today at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Last summer, when OPEC couldn't agree on production curbs, we saw the price of oil plummet. That's been great for us here in the U.S. at the pump, but it's been awful for countries like Venezuela, who depend largely on oil for their exportation. Their economy has collapsed. It has free-fallen into a depression. So what does that mean? Well, that means people got to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to spend 6 hours standing in a line just so they might be able to get the necessities like bread at a grocery store. So joining me now is Joel Skousen, editor of worldaffairsbrief.com. Now, Joel, we hear a lot about the Ukraine and Russia. Of course, the Middle East is always in the news, and we're even hearing a little bit about Africa these days. But Even with something like the economy in Venezuela collapsing, people waiting 6 hours in a bread line there, we don't really hear very much about what's going on in Venezuela, especially with regards to this recent drop in oil prices. Can you just kind of sum up a little bit about what's going on there?
Well, Venezuela is a very important country in Latin America to watch. Let me discuss the political and economic situation in Venezuela. There had been in past decades, perhaps 10 to 20 years ago, a robust middle class in Venezuela. It was one of the wealthiest countries, had a great deal of economic traffic with the United States, especially with Miami. But that was squeezed off by Chavez. There's kind of a two-pronged approach which explains what happened in Venezuela economically. One is the increase in benefits. Chavez promised huge benefit increases to people in Venezuela, and that came to pass. At the same time, he started a lot of currency controls, export-import controls, which made it very difficult for Venezuelan merchants to get hold of dollars. And in fact, there became a huge black market for dollars. That's one of the reasons why the Venezuela currency tanked down, is because of currency controls and refusal of the central bank to let them have dollars. So the business sector in Venezuela has collapsed almost 60 to 70% in Venezuela, leaving only the oil-driven welfare sector to keep people buying. And now that's in trouble because the country is near bankruptcy. There isn't enough money to pay for the welfare sector. Therefore, consumer spending is dropping tremendously. And that's why you have a really free-fall economy going on.
Nurses say that they've seen people die on the operating table because things like just the basic supplies needed for surgery weren't able to be there. Stores can't stock things like bread and milk and detergent on the shelves. One mother had to bring proof of a birth certificate to the grocery store just so she could buy diapers for her newborn. You might think if you go down there, you could live like kings because things like a tube of toothpaste only costs 7 cents. But when you consider the fact that people there are making about $30 a month, that is extreme prices for people.
They are on the verge of economic collapse. The economy isn't working. They can't get foreign exchange. The businessmen can't trade. There are no products or very few products coming into the country. A black market is starting to occur there, and violence is precluding a lot of people from being able to trade in the cities. And so it looks very, very bleak for Venezuela. As I said, I expect they're going to need a bailout from Russia and China, and the U.S. is probably going to try to just let it fall.
And so are we watching as the Western powers are just sort of sitting back and allowing this dictatorship to assume itself and almost dig its own grave? Like they're kind of just sitting back and allowing this to happen, knowing that it's doomed to fail.
Well, we have to remember that's a little complex answer that I can give here. Remember that the United States has a history of installing communist regimes. They purposely installed Castro in Cuba by undermining Batista. They installed the Sandinistas in neighboring Nicaragua by undermining Somoza, who was a very pro-Western and progressive president there. They brought the communists to power in Laos and Cambodia, Red China, Soviet Union, Suriname, many other places. Now, they did overthrow a couple of communist countries, one in Guatemala under Arbenz, and also in Chile under Allende. And both of those were by influencing the local military to perform a coup. And as I say, they foreclosed that. But remember, those last two overthrows in Guatemala and Chile happened when there was still an anti-communist cadre within the CIA under James Jesus Angleton. Those anti-communists in the CIA have been totally purged now. You'd never see a Bay of Pigs type revolution mounted. The one against the Sandinistas in the Contras was sabotaged because of drug dealing of the CIA, was never intended to be successful, and in fact was not successful. So I don't perceive that there really is an anti-communist faction who's interested in overthrowing Chavez or Maduro in the State Department.
So recently, the president of Venezuela has come out and said that there is a coup plot being backed by the White House. Is there any truth to that? Obviously, the State Department immediately came out and said that that was just the president blaming his own failed policies on the West. What do you think?
My information from Venezuela is that there is U.S. influence in the opposition. They are using, for example, there's a Serbian outfit called Canvas that has been providing tactical and strategic ideas, but ideas only, to the opposition. There are no effective deliveries of arms or large amounts of funds sufficiently to cause a coup or an armed resistance. There has only been private funds. There are some democracy funds that the U.S. does give, but a token amount, certainly not enough to cause the overthrow. Really what it would take, and what it always takes to overthrow a communist tyranny, is to get money to military officers within the Venezuelan military to run a coup. But Chavez foreclosed that many years ago by purging all of the right-wing officers from the Venezuelan military. So you only have left-wing, pro-Chavez type officers. There's virtually no way that the U.S. can buy a coup. The nation is essentially disarmed. I don't think a coup is possible in this regard. You have a typical communist government that controls all the arms and has a lock on the military right now.
So we know that historically, the globalists have set up these type of communist dictatorships in the past to do their bidding all over the world. Those dictatorships are then very easily toppled when the time is right.
The globalists have not attempted to overthrow many of these corrupt and communist regimes because they're basically setting up the facility in the world for this Third World War, which is going to be between Russia and China and the West. And they don't want to undermine the backers of Russia and China now. They will at some future time. But I think you're going to see most of these countries in Latin America go towards Russia and China in the next war. I think the expatriates that have moved there are going to be in a very sad state. That's why I don't recommend that for strategic relocation. But ultimately, Russia and China are playing their cards. They're planning on using Cuba still. Russia's back in there with their spying and does have some missiles in the country. I suspect that eventually Venezuela will, if it continues, will house some missiles. I do expect China and Russia to try to bail out Venezuela if it needs it. They don't want to lose it, to be sure.
This is historically the type of failure that we have seen with socialist and communist policies: food rationing, bread lines, famine. We might be witnessing the next large-scale exodus out of Venezuela, yet most Americans are completely oblivious to what those excellent gas prices actually mean for the other side of the world. So whether or not it's being engineered or if they're just allowing this communist tyranny to develop, we can see that Venezuela is ripe for globalist exploitation.
In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars Life.
You are watching the InfoWars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. And your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.